Welcome to KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio and the Southern California Business Report with Yvette Walker, a show dedicated to highlighting successful Southern California businesses and the people behind them.
Welcome and thank you for joining Southern California Business Report on ABC News and Talks, KMET 1490 AM, 98.1 FM, and KMET TV. I'm Yvette Walker, live blasting our signal from the center of Southern California, serving a population of over 25 million. Get us crystal clear and on demand by downloading the free live streaming app on Google Play and the Apple App Store. As always, a huge shout out to the team, Mitch, Bill, and Sean. I love you. And to our special advisory committee that can be found at www.scbrtalk.com/advisory committee. Check them out and learn about the incredible leaders doing the work. Okay, everybody, today I have the distinct honor to introduce Chief Munsey, Fire Chief and Fire Warden of the San Bernardino County Fire Protection District, who began his career in 1995 as a paid call firefighter serving the community of Yucca Valley and decided to pursue a career as a full-time firefighter. In 1998, Munsey joined our fire district as a full-time firefighter paramedic. Since then, Chief Munsey has joined a diverse career, including executive leadership and management experiences in both rural and metropolitan fire service communities. This includes having worked in every division of San Bernardino County. Chief Munsey holds a bachelor's degree in business administration, a master's degree in public administration, and multiple incident command system certifications. He is one of the few fire chiefs in California who possesses a Center for Public Excellence Chief Fire Officer credential, the 4-year National Fire Academy's Executive Fire Officer designation, and a California State Fire Marshal Chief Fire Officer certificate. Munsey has completed many specialized leadership training courses, including the California Special Districts Association Leadership Academy and the San Bernardino County Management and Leadership Academy, a program that provides comprehensive management and leadership training to county employees. In addition to his service to San Bernardino County, Chief Munsey is the past president of the California Fire Chiefs Association Operations Section and has served since 2019 as the chair of the International Association of Fire Chiefs Technology Council. He is a director on the FireScope Board of Directors, the vice president of the California Metro Fire Chiefs Association, and the vice president of the San Bernardino County Fire Chiefs Association. Chief Munsey is a California State Fire Marshal instructor and has taught dozens of fire service NIMS and incident command systems courses throughout his career. He served on the California Interagency Incident Management Team 11 in the operations section for many years and enjoys speaking about his command experiences, leadership, and the use of emerging technology in the fire service at conferences nationwide. Chief Munsey is one of the original founders of both the Cal Chiefs Tech Summit and the IAFC Technology Summit International. Chief Munsey is a firm believer in active community service, ensuring department diversity, hiring from local communities, and collaborating with other agencies to ensure public safety. He strongly believes in giving back and investing in the community he serves. His involvement, both past and present, includes various Rotary clubs, the Boys and Girls Club, Miracle League of the Desert, Habitat for Humanity, and other nonprofit benevolent boards. Dan Munsey became Fire Chief of the San Bernardino County Fire Protection District on November 20th, 2019. Wow, Chief Munsey, what an impressive bio and resume of your in-depth knowledge of fire protection services and emergency response. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Yvette. I'm going to have to talk to my PIO and cut that down. The thing they forgot is that I have 4 children as well. No, I believe in giving back, and I'm a lifetime learner, and I believe in setting a high expectation and demonstrating that in my personal and professional life. I'm very blessed to work for the County of San Bernardino. We have one of the best group of firefighters that you could ever meet. They're busy. They respond to a huge geographical area, and the county is very diverse, not only in our populations and our beliefs and our ideas and our economies, but in the San Bernardino Valley, it tends to be a little more metro. And then as you get into our beautiful mountains, you get up to over 11,000 feet. You have Beautiful snow up there right now as I'm looking up the mountains, and as you go off the backside, you get into our California deserts, Mojave Preserve, Joshua Tree. Truly is a beautiful county, and I'm completely blessed to work here.
Absolutely. As you mentioned, it's a very diverse region, right? We have deserts, valleys, mountains, just a beautiful area here to serve. But before we start, one of the first questions I ask each of my guests is to please share what it is that inspired you to pursue a career in fire protection and emergency medical response.
I dropped out of high school, to be honest, and was a surfer and a rock climber, and was rock climbing one day, and one of my friends had fallen and broken his back, and I realized I better get some first aid. I went to the local community college, Copper Mountain College out in Joshua Tree, and they asked me for my high school diploma, and I said, well, about that. And they convinced me to get a GED. I took the EMT class out there, did it right out with the local fire department, and said, that's it. That's what I want to do with my life. Became a volunteer firefighter, and then you've already read, I think my journey to become where I'm at now is the fire chief of one of the larger fire departments in the nation.
Absolutely. So, Chief Munsey, please illustrate for us what that looks like, because San Bernardino County is 20,068 square miles. How many of those miles does your agency cover?
Yeah, I think we're 19,286 to somewhere right around there, give or take a mile. And for perspective, you can take 4 of the smallest states in the nation and put it within our geographical boundaries, and we would still have room. As I mentioned, our San Bernardino Valley, we have a lot of firefighters, a lot of fire stations. They're fairly close. The mountains, they're starting to get spread out a little bit. And as you get into the deserts, our fire stations sometimes are spaced 2 hours apart just to serve this huge geographical area. It truly is an all-hazard fire department. As I was blessed here growing up as a firefighter, a lot of firefighters may get 1 or 2 structure fires a year. Here in the county, we've had wildland fires that have come in and threatened our communities. I think my first day as a company officer on an engine as a captain was during the Olden Ground pre-fire in 2003, and we lost over 400 houses. I think it's always amazing that in any given day we could have our snowcat, and we have the biggest snowcat fleet, believe it or not, in the nation. We could have them responding in our mountains, and at the same time, along the Colorado River, we could have our wildland firefighters fighting a wildland fire in 96-degree heat all in the same day. It's a pretty amazing place to work.
Wow. Speaking of which, not too long ago, there were residents that were stranded at the top of the mountain because of just overwhelming snow that was coming down. Please talk about that and how you were able to, put all of these resources together to jump in and, help these people.
So a little bit on the situation. February, moving into March of last year, we had a blizzard come in. It was the first blizzard in Southern California in many years, and it resulted in up to 10 feet of snow in our mountains. Our county workers did a great job trying to keep the roads clear, but their equipment just wasn't made for that kind of snowfall. And pretty quickly, the roadways got bogged down. People got trapped in their houses. They literally couldn't open their doors. There was snow up to their roofs. And then, unfortunately, some of those houses started collapsing due to the weight of the snow. A couple of grocery stores did in our local mountains. To compound it, the utility lines, there was a lot of the population was out without electricity. And then the gas meters started backing up with gas, causing explosions in the houses. So this is also an area where there's a lot of Airbnbs, so people weren't prepared for this kind of weather, and they didn't have a lot of food. So that's a situation moving into San Bernardino County Fire Protection District, establishing our incident management team. And being such a huge geographical area, having a lot of wildland responsibility, we're used to having these incident management teams respond. Many of our members have spent years in these teams, myself included. We established our team, quickly called our cooperators, and we had 800 firefighters up on the mountain within a day or two, literally shoveling snow, operating tractors right alongside our public works and Caltrans crews, working with the gas companies to restore, to inspect every single house to stop the gas explosions, working with the utility companies to make sure that we were clearing the roads so we can open the utilities. But this was a very complex incident, and having been on incident management teams in some degree for almost 2 decades, I've never been on such a complex incident that spread over such a large geographical area. Thankfully, none of our civilian population died. due to the storm. There was a couple of car crashes due to the snow and ice, unfortunately. But it was very impactful to our county. And again, the men and women that I work with every day, we have the best firefighters in the world. They went to work with smiles on their face and just did a tremendous job to help our mountain communities out.
Absolutely. That's something you can be very, very proud of, because in California, we don't expect blizzards, right? I don't remember the mountains ever receiving more than, a foot or so of snow max. And so last year was definitely one for the record books, so to speak.
Yeah, it was definitely a career event. I don't know that I'll see another one of those in my career, but I do know that a couple of things. We're going to see another large wildfire. It's going to happen. We're going to see more mud and debris flow. That's going to happen. Probably going to see an earthquake. We're way past due here in San Bernardino. One thing about our county, as beautiful it is that we are shaped by disasters. We're rated in the top 3 of the most disaster-prone counties in the United States. And it's because of the flooding and the debris flow. It's because of the potential for earthquake. It's potential for wildfire, even tornadoes. You never really think you're going to see a tornado in Southern California, but I've literally been on one that came down and it hit a trailer park. It took a trailer out and moved on. It wasn't a big tornado, but it was enough for me to say, well, check that one off the list. Now I'm responding to that.
Wow. Well, recently we just received tornado warnings in San Diego, right? So they're becoming a little bit more common in California for some reason. But speaking of the very diverse areas that you cover, let's jump in and cover each one individually and start with the Valley Service Zone. Let's talk about what that looks like.
So let me explain the zones if I can. San Bernardino County is big. As we mentioned, we cover over 19,000 square miles, and we're divided into 4 service zones. It really is to ensure that the tax revenue, both our property tax and our fire tax, FP5, the money collected in those zones has to be spent in those zones. So our Valley Service Zone is basically from the LA County line, Upland, and goes all the way through to the east end of San Bernardino. There's a little community called Mentone. That's our Valley area. There's some other fire departments that are scattered in there. There's Ontario and Rancho, Chino. They have some great fire departments, Redlands, Colton, Rialto. The rest is San Bernardino County. Then as you move north, we get into the Mountain Service Zone. And the mountains are the San Bernardino Mountains. It includes communities of Crestline and Crest Forest, Lake Arrowhead, Lake Gregory's in there, and then going across the mountain all the way to Fawnskin. There are some independent fire districts in there. Running Springs and Big Bear would be the 2 other fire departments. And as you get on that backside of the mountains, you move north, you get into our North Desert area. And that's the top of the Cajon Pass and goes all the way out to a little community called Trona and all the way out to State Line, Nevada, Baker. Go about 20 minutes past Baker. And the 4th zone we have is our South Desert Zone, and that's the Morongo Basin. That includes the towns of Yucca Valley and Josh Tree, Yucca Mesa, Landers, Flamingo Heights, Johnson Valley, and then goes all the way out to the Colorado River. Those of us like to go to the river and have been to Parker. Well, the California side is called Big River. That's our area. Moves up through Lake Havasu and then all the way up to Needles in the South Desert. So a lot of people don't realize we actually have a lot of water in San Bernardino. So we also have a fleet of boats, and we actually have an icebreaker, believe it or not, up on Big Bear Lake, because the lake is our responsibility. And in the winter, once in a while, we'll get people playing on the lake on the ice, and they'll fall through, and we'll use our boat to go rescue them. It's one of the safer ways to do that. We also have 2 boats on the Colorado River and Lake Havasu, and that allows us to respond to the boat fires, but also the wildland fires that ignite along those shores. With the lakes and the river, you got a pretty good water source, and you're able to get a pretty big flow of water quickly to suppress those fires.
Right. And so what you just spoke about illustrates what it is that you actually respond to, right? So it goes beyond fire and emergency. It just covers a multitude of different environments, an icebreaker, the snowcats, all of these different resources to really impact those varying regions, right? Because they're all so unique and so different.
They are, and there's a whole lot more. We participate in California Office of Emergency Services and Rescue Task Force, which is an urban search and rescue team. And we also participate in a FEMA, California Task Force 6. So we do the urban search and rescue. We actually have a lot of rescues here, and sometimes that's mine shafts, sometimes that's trenches that are caved in. Just about 2 weeks ago, we had a lady that was in her yard, and all of a sudden she fell through the dirt 25 feet in. She did not know that there was an old septic tank there.
Oh my
So our
goodness.
crews had to go in and rescue her, and that's considered a confined space. We have aircraft rescue firefighters on San Bernardino International Airport. We have on our fire engines. I don't think a lot of people know, but we have paramedics on every single one of our fire engines. We have the ladder trucks, the tiller trucks, the ones where there's a driver in the back and the front. So there's a wide variety of responses that we participate in. But we're also pretty proactive on preventing emergencies from occurring. Some of the more innovative programs we have are COAST teams, which are community outreach and support teams. And we partner a firefighter, paramedic, or firefighter EMT with a public health official and law enforcement. They wear plain clothes, they're in an unmarked van, and what's really unique is our firefighters have care dogs. So these are comfort dogs that they take with them. They're able to approach people that may be experiencing a mental health issue. And when they see the dog, it's funny, people really relate to the dog a little bit quicker than the humans, breaks down that barrier, or we'll use them for homeless outreaches as well. The other really innovative thing is we put nurses in our dispatch center, and you would think that would be very common, but it's actually pretty rare.
Wow.
When someone calls 911, we're asking them a series of questions, and the questions that are we know this imminent threat to life or property, you're going to get a fire engine and ambulance code 3, maybe multiple fire engines. But as you're asking questions, the more questions they ask, the less likely it's going to be a life-threatening emergency. You may just get the caller transferred to a nurse who's able to assist that caller without sending him an expensive ambulance bill to be transported to an emergency room.
That is remarkable. So you have just a multifaceted ability to respond to emergencies beyond what the standard, I believe, or what most would believe or understand to be a fire response, right? Wow, that's remarkable. And I also see that 78% of the county fire district is comprised of state or federal land management. What does that mean for your efforts?
Makes it difficult to protect this county because that 78%, the state and the federal government do not reimburse us for any of our calls. There's no property tax associated or any other revenue. So we're really asking our local community to pay for the responses in this federal land. And the types of responses are just, well, let me describe some of them. I think over the last 5 years, we've had about 26 different train derailments. And when you have a train derailment, it could be hazardous materials.
Wow.
Often these are derailing out in our desert areas, for instance, Daggett. It's out in the middle of nowhere. Most people have never even heard of it. But if you have a train derailment, you need to send crews out there. They need to assess the train. They make sure there's no fire, make sure there's no injuries to civilians or the operators of the train. And then they're assessing those rail cars to make sure there's no hazardous material leaks that could be harmful to the environment. Another example is where a great King of the Hammers is in our backyard, and the race does a great job maintaining the safety of the public and the racers. But in that same area, on any given weekend, we have motorcycle riders or ATVs or UTVs that are out there, and they'll get injured, and we'll need to send a fire engine sometimes 45 minutes or to an hour to find them and then transport them to the local hospital. We have car crashes that are out in the middle of nowhere that we'll respond to, auto extrication. Sometimes you have plane crashes or helicopter crashes, unfortunately. About 2 weeks ago, we had a helicopter crash on the way to Las Vegas in our jurisdiction. It's just a wide variety of incidents that are occurring on an annual basis. I think on average over the last 5 years, it's over 8,500 calls for service on a federal land. Now, for perspective, how many is that? We would consider a fire engine, normal fire engine would be considered busy about 3,200 calls. And those are calls in a city with maybe your response times are 9 minutes or less. But when you're driving 45 minutes an hour, even 3 hours to the incidents, you can think that really puts a drain and an impact on the firefighters as they're responding to these calls.
Absolutely. And that helicopter incident that you just mentioned actually made national headlines. Can you go in depth as to what that incident was?
Really can't. It's being investigated, but I will say, helicopters are relatively safe, so are airplanes, but we have a big area. And so it's not uncommon that we have some sort of aircraft crash in those areas per year, sometimes multiple crashes. It's hard to access those areas. It's difficult to get the personnel in. We do have a great partnership with San Bernardino County Sheriff. We put a firefighter paramedic and a captain paramedic on an air rescue, and they're able to get to these areas quickly and start administering care. And then we'll use private helicopters to transport the patient. On occasion, the sheriff's helicopters will too. In addition to responding to those kinds of emergencies, they're often into the national forest rescuing hikers. Mount Baldy is the classic, especially when it's snowing. People will go up there. There's real dangerous trails. They're beautiful, but they take a very high skill level, and people underestimate the geography in that region, the weather. They'll get trapped. We'll need to go find them and then extricate them using a hoist rescue on one of those helicopters.
Absolutely. So some of that federal land management under your purview includes the National Forests, Bureau Land Management, National Park Service, including Joshua Tree National Park, Mojave National Preserve. Please talk about, how vast that area is and the types of emergencies you respond to in those areas as well.
People would, I think, normally look at that and say, well, the forest, you have the U.S. Forest Service, and they have firefighters that are responding to the calls. The U.S. Forest Service does respond to wildland fires on the forest, but the all-hazard calls fall to our fire department. We certainly send our resources to support them on the wildfires, because if we allow that wildfire to get big, now you're going to threaten our communities, so we're going to help suppress those. But as I mentioned, there's a lot of other calls in those areas, including those lost hikers and car crashes and hazardous material responses. There's also structures that are scattered around in the national forest that we're responsible for. So it's with the San Bernardino National Forest, and we actually have a piece of the Angeles National Forest in Mount Baldy and Wrightwood. It's really unique areas to protect. A lot of our communities are tucked right up into those foothills or right into the mountains. So every single year we have a fire or two that's threatening our communities in a big way. It's our firefighters are good. They're really good at keeping the fires away from structures, but every year it seems like we lose a house or two. Now we're working really hard on prevention. We have a residential assessment program. We send our firefighters out and they meet with the homeowners and they talk about how to clear and do your part as a landowner to give our firefighters a fighting chance when that fire goes through. We work very closely with San Bernardino County to ensure that the construction standards are going to be fire resistant, but we're really trying to keep our civilians safe. There's other, as you mentioned, the Mojave National Preserve, there's a lot of grass out there. And last year, the York fire was the biggest fire in California. It was here in San Bernardino, and it unfortunately burned a lot of the Joshua trees, and it got into some of the structures and burned some structures out in the Mojave National Preserve. We have quite a few military bases. The military generally have their own fire departments that protect the base. They're great cooperators. We have mutual aid agreements, reciprocal agreements, so we'll go support them, and they'll also support us at times. But it makes for a really interesting jurisdiction when you have deserts and rivers and lakes and forest and foothills, and then you have the railroads, you have the airports, you have the freeways. It's almost like you're providing fire protection to an entire state. But there's one thing that's really interesting. On my shoulder, it says San Bernardino County Fire. We're not actually a San Bernardino County department. I mentioned where we work closely with San Bernardino County, with their roads department or land use services or code enforcement. But we are a special district, California special district, meaning we have our own revenue source, which is property tax and the fire tax. But we're not a general fund department like, say, the sheriff's department would be.
Interesting. Okay. Well, the National Training Center in Fort Wayne also falls under your purview as well. Please talk about the different military installations that you see that you are a part of covering.
Sure. We have a little piece of China Lake, which is a naval aviation base. There is Fort Irwin, there's Barstow, logistical. There is 29 Palms. Those are the bigger ones. Of course, Norton Air Force Base used to be here in San Bernardino. It's now changed into a San Bernardino International Airport, logistical airport with some commercial traffic. The bases, for the most part, are pretty good about covering their own incidents. They do have their own fire departments. We work very closely with them. We train, we pre-plan those incidents. There's a lot going on the bases we don't know about, but we're always willing to respond in the system. With that, we have a large military population. They're constantly traveling our freeways and highways, living in our communities. Sometimes they're traveling as military convoys. Sometimes they're traveling as civilians, but we're always there to support them and assist them. And frankly, it's not unheard of to stop at a car accident and find there's a military soldier, maybe a corpsman that's there and already rendering assistance to our civilian population. So that is a great benefit to our county, and we sure appreciate their service and their dedication to our nation's military.
Absolutely. Wow. Well, we're coming up on a break, Chief. So for everybody listening, I'm Yvette Walker with ABC News and Talk Southern California Business Report, here today with Chief Dan Munsey, Fire Chief and Fire Warden for San Bernardino County's Fire Protection District, one of the largest fire departments in the United States, providing critical fire protection and emergency services to over 60 communities throughout the county, talking about the innovative technologies and techniques being used to fight fires, the importance of community outreach, education, staffing, budgeting, and training, with an unwavering dedication to keeping communities safe. When we return.
We are the Empire Strikers, the professional sports team of the Inland Empire. We are a fast-actioned and community-inspired pro indoor soccer team. Our mission is to inspire the Empire. Home games, community events, watch parties, and youth camps are all back. Professional indoor soccer is back. Join us and come watch the greatest show on turf at Toyota Arena or on Twitch. Visit www.theempirestrikers.com for more and any information.
The University of La Verne is rated first in California for alumni satisfaction. Learn more about accelerated programs offered online and on campus in La Verne, Irvine, Ontario, Burbank, or College of the Canyons. Visit go.laverne.edu. The University of La Verne. go.laverne.edu.
Hi, I'm Dana Rademacher with MGR Property Management.
A lot of people wonder about the value that property management has for their property. Property management can include all property types, including residential, commercial, and HOA. It is valuable because property managers are experienced in what can happen at your property. We're aware of liabilities. We're able to do predictive and preventative maintenance. We know what is coming up with the changes in the weather, the seasons, how old certain aspects or different capital projects at your property are. We're able to best negotiate contract pricing, legalities with your tenants, and anything else that you may need to ensure that you're getting the full value of your property.
If you're interested in speaking with the representative at MGR Property Management regarding your property management needs, you can visit our website at mgrrealestate.com, or you can call our number at area code 909-581-6600 to be connected with the representative.
Hi, Ray Lance from the Diamond Center in the Claremont Village here. One of the coolest parts of a third-generation family business is getting to know the families we serve through generations. Once you experience our friendly service, our fair and transparent pricing, and our beautiful jewelry that we make to last a lifetime, you'll stick with us too. Come visit us in the Claremont Village or at Lantz, L-A-N-T-Z, diamondcenter.com and see what makes us different.
Cal State San Bernardino is home to the only school of entrepreneurship in California. With globally ranked degree programs, you can start your journey today to become a successful entrepreneur. Learn more and connect at entre.csusb.edu.
Hi, I'm San Bernardino County Sheriff Shannon Dykes. If you're looking to start an exciting career in law enforcement and make a difference in your community, we are hiring dispatchers, nurses, deputies, laterals, and many more. For a complete list of our jobs and more information, visit sheriffsjobs.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Yvette Walker with ABC News and Talk, Southern California Business Report, here today with Chief Dan Munsey, Fire Chief and Fire Warden for San Bernardino County's Fire Protection District, one of the largest fire departments in the United States, providing critical fire protection and emergency services to over 60 communities throughout the county, talking about the innovative technologies and techniques being used to fight fires, the importance of community outreach, education, staffing, budgeting, and training, with an unwavering dedication to keeping communities safe. Thank you again for being with us, Chief Munsey.
Thank you.
Beautiful. So prior to the break, you gave us kind of a view of the purview of how dynamic and complex the area is that you actually cover. You know, the topography, the environment, the whole 9 yards. It's very complex. I can't think of a more complex environment. Let's go into the technology part of fire protection. I understand you're going to be testifying soon at the Science and Space Technology community in regards to EV fires. Please share with us.
Yeah, I think that I've been really blessed to work in San Bernardino and have a lot of experience and the education to back it up. So I get asked on occasion to testify. Last year, I was asked by the President's Cabinet to be part of a study from the President's Cabinet on science and technology on wildfire and how it's impacting fire service. A couple of months back, I was back in front of Congress talking about wildfire bills and federal infrastructure and the importance of keeping federal roads open. You can think the fire access roads in the forest for local firefighters. Next week, I'll be back talking to, as you mentioned, the Science, Space, and Tech Committee on electric vehicle fires. And electric vehicles are very safe until the battery is damaged. And when the battery is damaged, the battery can quickly overheat and it creates a condition called thermal runaway, which can cause explosive fire growth. It's very difficult for firefighters to suppress. And it's essentially off-gassing a lot of really nasty hazardous materials that are very harmful to firefighters and the civilian population. So we're talking about some of the mitigation techniques that firefighters are using, some of the tools that we need to more effectively fight these fires. We're going to talk about the engineering that needs to occur in our electric vehicles to make sure that these batteries are safer. We're going to talk about some of the fire codes that may be changing to make sure that people are properly maintaining and charging their batteries. We're going to talk about these electrical vehicle fires when they do occur in maybe one of our wildland urban interface areas, how it affects brush fires, how it could threaten communities. There's going to be a wide range of conversation with that congressional committee. We go back to Congress a lot. As I mentioned, 78% of our area is federal or state land, and we don't receive any revenue for that. It's our budgets are difficult here in San Bernardino County. We don't have the richest communities. We're asking a lot from our civilian population to pay for these responses. So we're often back meeting with our congressional members and some of the caucuses and different department heads and advocating for our local community to be able to bring dollars into San Bernardino County. In fact, over the last 3 years, our grant writer, Diane Mendez, who's fantastic, has brought in $33 million worth of grants to help offset some of the costs for responding into these areas. Still not enough, but she's doing an amazing job. That includes everything from fire station replacements, getting funding to replace some of our fire stations, buying new fire engines and getting the tools and equipments for the firefighters that we would not normally be able to afford out of our budget.
Wow, that is remarkable. So going back to the EVs and the batteries, please talk a little bit about those mitigation efforts. And is there, a way for consumers or owners of an EV to, is there a checklist or something that they can do to identify damage to their battery and see if they're at risk for having their battery cause a fire within their car, within their vehicle?
So one of the problems for firefighters, it's very difficult to actually access that battery. These batteries can be very dangerous. So I wouldn't recommend the civilian population unless they're well trained to inspect them. I think it's a good idea to have your car dealership take a look at it. But in reality, though, these batteries are going to be safe unless the vehicle's had some sort of damage. Maybe it's been in a car crash or one of the cells have failed. And when that occurs, you're gonna get that thermal runaway fire. And because we can't access the battery, it makes it very difficult to cool that battery. And even when you cool it, these damaged cells can then reheat and the battery can reignite. So some of the techniques we'll have often will just be to allow the car to burn itself out. Just let it burn. And while we don't really want to off-gas all that hazardous materials, at the same time, if you suppress it, it's going to reignite. So I mentioned some of our freeways. You might have a fire station that's 2 hours from another one. Generally in those areas, the 15 and the 40 freeway on the way to Las Vegas, for instance, there's no water hydrants. Mm-hmm. And so if you use the tank water, the water that's carried on a fire engine, you're going to quickly run out of water, and that fire is going to keep burning anyway. So it may just be allowing that car to burn out. Second technique is being able to access that battery, cool the battery sufficiently to the point where it's no longer burning. And once that car is no longer burning, we'll monitor it. And then the tow truck driver, the tow truck driver is getting really good at this. They're going to isolate the car at the tow yard. They're not going to put it next to anything else that's flammable. If we have to, we'll dig a pit and fill it with water and submerge the car in the water to cool those batteries. There's a couple of different things that are occurring. In Europe, they're fighting these fires completely different than we are in the United States. And we're starting to get some of our associations looking at each other's techniques, and we're really trying to work out what's the best way to do our job as firefighters. But what we truly need is science to catch up with creating safe batteries conditions. Solid state batteries are going to come probably in the next 5 years. At that point, there'll be safer batteries for our cars. Creating cooling packs that keep those batteries cool no matter what would be another way that we can engineer. For a homeowner, someone that owns a car, the number one thing you can do, though, is to charge your batteries correctly. And people often decide that they're going to get creative and create their own charging systems. Those we're finding that those are leading to fires. It's especially hazardous if this car or this vehicle's in a garage, because now you have this hazardous material that's off-gassing in a confined space. So as the firefighters make entry into the garage, the smoke's under pressure, which quickly will perforate into their protective equipment, and it makes it very difficult for us to clean. We can't effectively clean our turnouts in those situations. Our turnouts are our protective equipment, our jacket, and our bunker pants that we put on. We have to send those to specialized cleaners who use a variety of different methods, but compressed CO2 would be one way to remove those chemicals out of the turnouts. Very expensive, but those turnouts are expensive too. They're about $10,000 for a full set of them. So lots of different challenges, still emerging technology and how we're going to address this. For the most part, electric vehicles are not catching fire en masse. They're relatively safe until that battery is compromised or it's been improperly charged.
Right. Wow. That's a big problem to have to tackle as more electric vehicles are coming online, especially with a lot of the green policies that are coming down the pipeline for the state of California. You mentioned your superstar that, received or applied for $33 million and successfully received those for your agency. Let's talk about how that funding is included and infused into your operating budget. I think we all understand the impact that inflation has had on individuals, and I'm certain it's impacted agency as well with cost of fuel and other things. Please talk about your operating budget and what that looks like today.
So I love asking questions, Sudette. So I'm going to ask you a question. You ready? How much does a new fire engine cost?
Oh, I would have to say maybe at least $400,000.
Okay, that's a pretty common guess. I get that one. $500,000. People think they're going a little high. A new fire engine, and we're the Ford Chevy department, Dodge. We're not a Cadillac.
Okay.
We buy reliable and safe. That's $1.3 million for a new fire engine.
Wow.
Now these fire engines typically last 10 to 12 years in our frontline service, and the firefighters they're aggressive with equipment. They start them up. They don't let them warm up. They're immediately on the gas. They're hitting the brakes. They arrive at an incident, they're using the pumps. So you put a lot of wear and tear in these apparatus, but they last about 12 years. At that point, they go into a reserve status, meaning we always have a frontline and a reserve. So when your frontline apparatus, which is fire engine, is out of service for maintenance or because it's broken, you have that reserve engine that you can respond in. A new fire truck, a ladder truck, is about $2.3 million. A new fire station is roughly, depending on your jurisdiction and your building requirements, probably for most jurisdictions, it's going to be about 14 million to a high end of 30 million. And it seems like a lot of money. And the reason is there's a lot of requirements that we have to meet. Seismic standards, for instance. We're doing commercial construction. We're also building fire stations to last 50 to 100 years. So firefighting is expensive to begin with. And then through inflation, in 2013, you're probably close. It was about $400,000 for a new fire engine. Just a couple of years ago, in 2019, we were buying them for about $800,000. So the last couple of years with inflation, it's become very difficult to replace our tools and equipment than we normally would. And that's going to be one of our messages to Congress when we go back and talk about the electric vehicle fires, is that this is a whole nother set of tools and equipment that firefighters are going to need. These are non-traditional tools that a local jurisdiction is going to have to purchase across the United States. This is very expensive. So costs are escalating with salary and benefits too. As minimum wage has increased, it's put upward pressure on what our firefighters make and our ambulance operators. Literally, we don't pay our ambulance operators. That's the men and women that are driving in the ambulances. They literally make about what you can make in Starbucks right now. And so we try to give them great working conditions, and it's an exciting job. But we're also finding out that America doesn't really want to be firefighters and police officers anymore. They would rather do other jobs. I can't believe it, because this is the greatest job that I could ever imagine. I've never woken up ever a day in my life and said, oh man, I got to go to work. I've always been excited to go to work. Always loved the rewards of seeing what we've done in society to make a difference. But all those costs continue to rise in firefighting. And this is not just San Bernardino County, and this is just not Southern California. This is nationwide, where we're seeing a shortage of firefighters. We're seeing local jurisdictions really struggling to pay firefighters. And because there's a staffing shortage in San Bernardino County, we've been close to 100 firefighters short over the last 4 or 5 years. Well, when you have those many vacancies, now you have agencies competing for employees, and the employees will tend to go where the well-funded agencies are, where they can make a lot more money. So it's a little harder for agencies like San Bernardino County, the Ford and Chevy version of what a pay scale would be. It's making it really difficult for some of the smaller agencies to maintain their staffing.
Wow, that's difficult. What a big challenge. 100 firefighters short. And how long has that trend existed?
We started seeing it maybe 6 years ago, but when COVID hit, it got really bad. It had a little bit to do with the community colleges stopped classes, and to become a firefighter, you really need to be a paramedic. And so we just couldn't hire paramedics. We've had to change our hiring practices. Right now, we're hiring EMTs and we're sending them to paramedic school. It's a little more expensive too. Sending an employee that you're paying to school to get that paramedic certification, that's a 1-year commitment, 1-year schooling to get that. We're starting to tighten it up a little bit by hiring EMTs and putting them through school, but it takes a long time to catch up. For perspective, 100 vacancies, it was causing the men and women that work here to work 14, 15, 20 days in a row, 24-hour shifts without going home. And then they would get a couple of days off, and then they would come back to work and do it again. Especially during COVID, it was my heroes were our firefighters for how hard they worked to support, to just do the day-to-day 911 calls on top of having all the COVID restrictions, on top of what we call force hires or mandatory shifts, meaning it's not voluntary overtime. It's when I say, Yvette, I know you're supposed to be off tomorrow. You're not going home, you're working. And I tell you that day after day after day, and you're working 20 days without seeing your family. It was really stressful, but our men and women just really did a great job. We're starting to catch up. It was pretty impactful.
Wow, that's remarkable. Chief, please share with us the current county fire personnel that you have on board with you.
So we do a lot of things. We have our firefighters that are out there doing the 911 calls and responding to emergencies. We have 712 sworn personnel. But we also have, we do the cupola regulation. I don't think many people realize that. So all the hazardous materials regulation in businesses, industrials, and commercial, we have that certified unified protection agency. We have our Office of Fire Marshal. Those are the ones that are doing the fire inspections. They're doing the fire plans checks for new construction. Great division over there. We have a full mechanic shop and vehicle services. We have warehouse men. We have to have a warehouse that's 24/7 to supply the firefighters. We have the men and women that work here in fiscal department and budget. They work as office assistants, grant writers, as I mentioned, human resources. We really are almost like a small city in county fire. So we have just about 1,200 employees. And as I mentioned, 712 of those are sworn firefighters, firefighter paramedics, suppression ranks.
So I also understand that there is a measure coming online that voters are going to be expressing, one way or another, their sentiment on, and that's Measure W. Please talk about what that is and what the potential impact that would have on your department.
Okay, I mentioned we're a special district and not a county department. And so as a special district, we receive a portion of the property tax that our residents pay, our citizens and residents pay. And that varies depending on community, but that property tax isn't enough to fund all our current fire stations. So we also have a fire tax, and it's known as FP5. Measure W was brought on to repeal that fire tax. And it was stated that the fire tax should go away. We don't need to pay this because the county general fund will make up the difference. The total FP5 is $46.5 million. But because we're a special district and not a county department, there really isn't, there's no mechanism, there's no reason why the county should give us money out of their general fund. We're a special district like a school district. There's plenty of school districts out there that don't have enough money, but you don't see cities giving their general fund to school districts, nor do you see counties because they are a special district and they receive property tax. Other examples are water districts or sanitation districts, wastewater, cemetery districts. And we're not the only fire district in the county. There's 4 others that exist. So the board of supervisors, I think, would love to provide more money to fire departments, but if they give money to a special district, where does it stop? Then they need to give money to school districts. So this is put on the tax rolls with that idea. The reality is that $46.5 million is used for operations in this fire department, and it directly pays for fire stations and firefighters. I mentioned that we have the fire marshal's office, we have ambulances. Well, they charge fees, and those fees pay for the fire marshal, the fees pay for the ambulances. I can't charge more fees to pay for firefighters. That'd be illegal under Proposition 218. So Measure W allows the voters to decide what level of fire protection they want to have. If they want the current level, then they'll vote no, and that maintains our FP5 funding for the fire district. If they want the fire district to have less money, $46.5 million, they will vote yes to repeal that fire tax. It'll go away, and the fire district will have $46.5 million less to operate with. People ask me, what's the benefit of either? Well, the benefit of voting yes and repealing it is that you would save $171.85 per year on your property tax. That's what each parcel pays, $171.85. The potential loss to the district, if we lost that money, would mean that we would probably have to close fire stations. We would. There's no way around that. It would lead to longer response times and a decreased level of service. People ask me about insurance costs a lot, and a lot of us are worried about just maintaining the current insurance we have. Well, as you tend to have less firefighters, less fire engines that are able to arrive on fires and keep fires small, then you start having more buildings burned down, which leads to insurance loss. The more loss you have, insurances tend to go up. There's also the ISO rating. You'll see if you're driving around LA City or LA County, you'll say ISO 1 often on the fire engine. That means the insurance service organization has rated that community with the highest rating of a 1. The ISO, the way they do that rating is they're looking at the fire stations, the deployment of the fire apparatus, the training, the water system, the dispatch system, and they're giving that rating. So as you have to reduce the amount of fire engines or close fire stations, it'll lower that ISO rating, which could lead to higher insurance costs. So as a fire chief, I can't advocate for or against, but I have been out in the communities, I've been educating the public on what the fire tax does provide for their local communities. As you mentioned, we service over 60 communities, and I think I've been to about 40 meetings in the last 40 days, and we are being very specific on the community. For instance, the city of San Bernardino, $10 million of your $30 million budget is FP5. With the loss of FP5, now you have $20 million to operate, and these are round numbers in general. They're not 100% accurate, but you're losing 1/3 of the funding for your fire stations. You currently have 9 fire stations, and I'm going to have to make decisions to cut costs. So we're making it very individuals for each community so they can decide. But this is a jurisdictional fire tax, and it's the total votes. 50 plus 1, yes, would repeal it. That would mean $46.5 million is not available in our budget. A no vote would mean that we maintain it. So while we're educating the communities, it's the whole geographical region for our county fire protection district's jurisdiction.
Wow, that's a big dent if it goes the other way. But we're coming up on time. Briefly, within a minute or so, Chief, can you share what it is you're most looking forward to in the next year or two coming up with such a vast variety of area to cover in the San Bernardino County Fire Protection Agency?
Well, let me start with what I'm most hopeful for. Last year, we didn't have a significant wildland season in California. There really wasn't as devastating wildfires as we've seen in the past. There's been a lot of investment from the state and the federal government to reduce wildfire. I'm not going to attribute it to that. I'm going to attribute it to the weather factors, the fact that we had a lot of rain and the fuel moistures were really high. The higher the fuel moistures and the more moisture in the trees, the less likely the fires are going to get big. I'm hopeful we're going to have another fire season like that. And the reason is the fire service is stressed with staffing. Our men and women have been working very hard over the last few wildland seasons. It's been difficult to hire folks, but there's other reasons. And that's that the U.S. Forest Service and the federal wildland firefighting agencies are struggling hiring people too. They are facing the same thing as local fire departments are, leading to station closures in our local forests. So as there's less forest firefighters, the more likely those fires can grow. I'm really excited about the use of technology. It's been just amazing how quick the fire service is adopting it. We're really using UASs and drones, and we have a robotic dog, a quadruped that we received from a grant that's going to be coming here that we're going to use for search and rescue. Just really exciting innovation. I hope there's another opportunity to come on and talk in your program about the innovation in the fire service. It's really exciting for me to see what we're doing.
Absolutely, Chief Munsey. We will have you back on for regular updates because fire service protection to our region is critical. Thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thank you, Beth.
Beautiful. All right. For everybody listening, don't forget to look for us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Check us out on scbrtalk.com. Don't miss my interview next week. We will have Shannon Dykes. He is the sheriff of San Bernardino County. He's the 36th sheriff coroner for San Bernardino County on June 7th, 2022. San Bernardino County has over 2 million residents and is the nation's largest county geographically, spanning more than 20,056 miles. The department oversees the unincorporated areas, operates county jail systems, provides marshal services in the county courts, and contract law enforcement services to 14 of the 24 incorporated cities within the county. The department consists of 2,007 sworn personnel, 2,073 professional employees, and 1,552 volunteers with an annual budget of over $800 million. You do not want to miss it. We will see you all next week.